My father started up greengrocer's business in Sandend in 1946. We moved down from the farm of Barnyards of Finlitter up at the top of the hill there, and we moved into one of the new houses, which were a prefabs at that time, because it was handy, because across the road the building that the workmen had used for building the prefabs was on a cement base, and it was just appropriate for my father to build his garage on there. And he subsequently started his business from that point.
I was born in Sandend in 1948. At that time, the prefabs had just been built at Sandend, and I was the first boy born in prefabs. So that was 1948. I suppose the memories of Sandend are going further down the village to visit my granny and my granddad and all relatives, because at that time everyone in Sandend was related. So memories of that, memories of going to school, memories of going down the beach, and just playing around with my pals. That was it. Yeah.
I've been going to Sandend since I was a small baby, 3-month-old baby. My parents bought a cottage there in around about 1970, and I went there for every single holiday up until my teens, and have gone frequently as an adult. One of my first memories is of going over the braes at Sandend over to Seagull City, which is known locally, where all the seagulls live in their nests, on my own on an expedition, and my big brother having to come and look for me. I think I was about 3. Obviously I have lots of memories of the beach. I seem to remember it being eternally summer. I remember going to the beach, and on the way going to the wee shop and getting candy floss and ice lollies at the Winfield's shop, and going to the beach, spending days on the beach in the summer with my mum and my siblings and my dad.
The beach has always been popular. If you go back to maybe the 20s and 1920s and 1930s, the residents of Sandend, they didn't have much money. They were all fishermen, and fishing wasn't that good at the time. So to try and augment that, during the summer, the occupiers would let out the house for visitors to come, and they would come, and the occupier of the house would then move up into the loft and stay there where the nets were mended, or they would go out and stay in the wash house outside while the visitors were there. Of course, at that time there was no water, no sewage, no electricity, so the lady of the house had to carry buckets of water for her guests, and of course she also had to empty the toilet a couple of times a day. So the attraction for these visitors was the beach, and they would come from all over, Glasgow, Edinburgh, Perth. They would come up, motor up maybe come by train, because at that time there was a station just up at Glasgow, so it was busy at that time. However, in the war, the Second World War, during that, visitors, that trailed off. After the war, it did pick up a wee bit. Again, the attraction was the beach. People would still come to the beach from all around, you know, and if it was a nice day. And of course now, we still have visitors, but they have holiday homes. And again, the attraction is the harbour area, and the beach.
Back in the 50s and 60s, you could access the beach with motor cars. And I would say roughly you could have 200 cars sitting in that beach on a Sunday afternoon and 2 ice cream vans. Funnily enough, my auntie had a wee shop, an ice cream shop in Sandend, and she had her van there, and also the ice cream cafe from Versailles, they put a van out too. Because a lot of people come in down from the country, they could change their clothes in the car, get into their swimming trunks and go into the scenic club and dry off. And actually, there used to be buses, Alexander's buses. I've seen 4 of them parked down beside the school there on a Sunday through the week with school picnics. It was quite a common thing, especially in the summertime. There was an novel activity back then, but that was coming. When we were kids, we used to get a tip from pushing people off the beach coming up onto the road, because the sand was softer there, you see, because the sea had never come up to that part, you see, and some of the cars stopped, so just half a dozen you got in behind and pushed the cars out, so there was a half crown was thrown out the window, you know. That was common practice right through the summer.
One big feature of it for me as a kid, although I'm not sure if I entirely properly understood why they were there, were the blocks, although I probably did ask. I was quite a curious kid. The blocks that were put there in the Second World War to prevent the Germans invading, I think, from Norway. They were worried the Germans were going to invade. And the gun houses as well, they were quite good fun to go in as a kid. And I think teenagers did bad things in there when they, I wouldn't know. When we were teenagers, it used to be a good place to hide out. There was another gun house on the road, but I think that had been sealed off to stop people going in. So that's something I really do remember about the beach. But just endless days of sunshine, absolute happiness, really. Any song from the early 80s just reminds me of being on that beach. I used to have to get dragged back in the car at the end of the summer.
And these blocks that are still there was Churchill's beach defence idea, which even started Scapa Flow and right doing. So that's why in fact, there's a lot of beaches that I've been at. I've never seen these, but the Sandend seem to be unique. That there are still here. Maybe they've been removed, or maybe disappeared. But the Sandend ones are still here.
It's just a huge area of clean sand. During the war, there were poles put into the beach to stop landings. The blocks were also built. The blocks are still there, and really we need them there for erosion. Otherwise, the sea just keeps going further in and further in. I remember going to the beach in the morning. It was a nice day, down with the pals down the beach and into the water, home for lunch, back down again in the afternoon. Perhaps Mum would come along, aunties, all the cousins, and we'd have a picnic. The picnic, of course, was you had your tea, and the best china came down, and biscuits, sandwiches, and whoever stayed nearest the beach would nip home, boil up a couple of kettles, and come back with the hot water for the tea. Then it was back into the sea again, and then back, when you come out of the sea, you always got a biscuit. This was called chatri chow, and this was a biscuit to stop your teeth chattering. Chatri chow. I would just describe the beach as a great place. And now, as well as people going in just to paddle or whatever, we have the surfers come in, and it's good to see them in the summertime. All the surfers there, and people in the water, and people having picnics. I don't know if they still have a kettle or what, but still had our picnics.
Swam in the sea, I sunbathed, I made sandcastles. I'm the youngest by quite a long way, so I've spent a lot of the time getting buried by my older siblings up to my neck, and as you do, as they like to do. As a teenager, we had parties on the beach with bonfires, which was great. Just sat on it and looked out to sea as well, often as a teenager, and doing that puts things into perspective often as well. I wasn't one for water sports. I think I've played on a boogie board once. Didn't really, I mean, there were people surfing. I remember people coming in the 80s with t-shirts saying Sandend Surf City. So it was known even at that time as a surf place. I know it's growing now, but there was people frequently surfing there. I went out on a boat once, on a holiday maker's boat out into the bay, so saw the beach from that side as well. But I mean, there was always a lot of people doing water sports and had boats and canoes and
The harbour was a hive activity too. A lot of kids did a lot of swimming in there in the evenings going after them home from school. So they just dumped the school bag and just away down and onto swimming trunks, and they just spent their whole evening in the harbour. Like
Some of the kids did go in boats. There was a fishing boat in the harbour. He would go out for lobsters or mackerel, and sometimes occasionally take the kids out with him. I was out once or twice, but I wasn't out that often. Although my dad was a fisherman, the sea never really appealed to me, other than to go in with my swimming costume. That was it.
I remember Sandend from many years ago when I used to come down just to have a look around the village and I walk along the beach. That's many years ago, and then I never thought that one day I would actually live here. And when I retired, wife and I just wanted somewhere to retire where it was peaceful and quiet, and we found a house in Sandend and bought it and moved into Sandend then. Village life is it's quiet, and it's a lot of visitors come down to Sandend. I mean, we notice from warehouse, I mean, how many cars go up and down the road every day. And it's got its fish processing plant down the road as well, which a lot of fish vans come down here and load up and sell their fish around the countryside. And I find it peaceful here and it's quiet. So. My wife, she collects sea glass for a friend of hers who turns it into the jewellery and pictures using the sea glass. So she's often down there and she just has a look for sea glass, and she found this medal, which was a Golden Jubilee medal from Queen Victoria. It's not in good state of repair, but it was readable to what was on it, and that's what it was a Golden Jubilee medal for Queen Victoria. Well, I mean, she finds quite a few bits and pieces down in the beach. It's of interest, and like bottle stoppers and things like that. It comes from old medicine bottles and things like that. Like, you know, it's quite interesting, some of the things that she finds. So, it's very interesting.
Came here 2002. I've been here since. I've got a house down in the village. The beach is just absolutely brilliant. It's very calming. When I first moved here, I was going over the beach, I would say every day. Guaranteed every day, and I would go down there, sit there hours just watching the waves, listening to the sea. I had a dog, so I used to go down there and the dog would just run about for ages. You'd meet folk. It's quite a a social beach. You're always meeting people from the village or out with the village that come here because it's such a nice beach. And because they're coming down here quite a lot, you make friends. So you might meet them a couple of times, but the more you're down there, the more you do meet them. So you actually make quite a group of friends off of the beach, as well as friends that you've got that live in the village. You know, so it can be a very social gathering point, I could say. You know, we go down there, we have barbecues, you know, go down there at night, have a bonfire on the beach, barbecue, a few beers, just a general get together on the beach with friends, family, campfire, and everybody just sits there. All the dogs will be running about, the kids will be building sandcastles. If it's still warm, they'll be in and out of the water, you know, kids eating sandwiches, adults burgers or whatever, plus beers, of course. You know, so it's a very, I would say, it's a very important part of the community and the surrounding areas.
Well, one of my favourite stories about that beach is that one of the big features of that area, in fact I think there's a dark sky park not far from there, is the night sky. You can see the Milky Way really clearly. And I remember, well, a couple of things I remember. I do remember meteor showers and making a midnight feast for me and my friend. The midnight feast consisted of wham bars, and she'd come to my house and throw stones at my window, and we would sneak out and see these, but I slept right through. I'm sure I've seen them on other occasions. I have seen them on other occasions. But I remember also, I think this is as an adult, yeah, definitely as an adult, I was walking along the beach. Well, actually got off the beach and onto the road, and we looked back and we saw a meteorite fall out the sky. Went and looked for it the next day, but I don't think you could probably distinguish it very easily from another rock. So if anybody's a geologist, they might want to go. It might still be there, very end of the beach. Saw a falling star. That was quite special.